Alright guys, so let's go ahead and look at the last video. This is 3.1e part 2. And so let's go ahead and finish these notes. It says state the x and the y intercepts for each equation. Graph each equation using the x and y intercepts. So guys, remember we're using standard form. And I know you've heard this, me say this a bunch of times. The only reason we ever use standard form is to find the x and the y intercept, and that's in order to graph just those 2 points and connect the dots. So looking at this, I have this equation, 2x plus 3y equals negative 12. So we're going to start by graphing these now. So to find the x-intercept, remember I am going to plug in 0 for y. So the equation for the x-intercept would be 2x plus 3 times 0 equals negative 12. This would cancel and just go away, the 3 times 0 wouldn't. So I'd have 2x is equal to negative 12. And when I divide both sides by 2, I would get x is equal to negative 6. Therefore, the x-intercept is negative 6, 0. So I can go ahead and graph that. Remember, this is my x-axis, and I would just go over to 6, and I would plot a point right here. So I already got halfway done. Now I'm going to solve the same equation again, but instead of, for a y-intercept, instead of plugging in 0 for x, I'm going to plug, 0 for y, I'm going to plug in 0 for x. So I'm going to be looking for that number. So if I plug that into the equation, it would look like 2 times 0 plus 3y is equal to negative 12. This cancels and I'm left with 3y is equal to negative 12. And I would just divide each side by 3 to get y equals negative 4. So when I plugged in 0 for x, my y value is negative 4. So all I do now is go down 1, 2, 3, 4, and I plot my second point. Now, to graph a line, you only need 2 points, so we could go ahead and connect the dots. So it would look like this. Alright, so let's go ahead now and look at the next one. We're going to go ahead and find the x-intercept first. So remember, it is going to be 0 for y, and we're going to find out what that x value is. So x minus 3y is equal to negative 9. So if I plug in 0 for y, it would be x minus 3 times 0 is equal to negative 9. And that gives me x minus 0 equals negative 9. And that would give me x equals negative 9. So when I plugged in 0 for y, my x value is negative 9. So if this is 0, 0, my x tells me when I go left and right. So I'm going to go left to negative 9 and plot a point. So now what we're going to do is find our y-intercept. Remember, the y-intercept is when x is 0, whatever that y value is. So let's go ahead and look at this. This will be 0 minus 3y is equal to negative 9. That is just negative 3y is equal to negative 9, which means when I divide both sides by negative 3, that will give me y is equal to positive 3. So I'm just going to go up to 1, 2, 3, and plot a point. Now that I have my 2 points, I can go ahead and connect my lines, and then we're done. That's how you graph using standard form. Alright, let's go ahead and look at this one. It says complete the following equation. 3x minus 5y equals 5. I want you to find the x and the y-intercept. So, I know I've said this a bunch of times, but we're going to plug in 0 for y here. So give me 3x minus 5 times 0 is equal to 5. This will give me 3x minus 0 equals 5. Which will be 3x equals 5. And when I divide both sides by 3, I will get x is equal to 5 over 3. Now this is why standard form is very helpful, because I have an x-intercept of 5/3. When graphing, it's very hard to identify it. If it was 5/3, to be exact, we'd actually have to solve it. So 5/3 is my x-intercept. Now let's go ahead and try it with my y value. So it would be 0, comma, and this number I'm looking for. So remember, if I just plug in 0 for x, it goes away, and so you can kind of start to see a shortcut where you don't have to write all those steps. You can kind of just even ignore it and just write negative 5y is equal to 5. So then when I divide both sides by negative 5, I'm going to be left with y equals negative 1. So now I have my 2 points, 5/3 and 0, comma, negative 1. And it says, would it be easier to graph this equation using the x and the y intercepts or converting it to slope-intercept form? And it really looks like a personal choice here. On this one, I would actually it really just depends on what you prefer. So if you had 3x minus 5y is equal to positive 5, to convert it into slope-intercept form, we would minus 3x on both sides. To get negative 5y is equal to negative 3x plus 5. Once I divided each and every term by negative 5, I would get y is equal to positive 3 over 5x minus 1. Now it says, would it be easier to graph? I would say it would be easier to graph using the x or y intercepts. I would say it would be easier to graph using standard form, but this form would be a little bit more exact because you would start off at negative 1, and then from there you would go up 1, 2, 3 over 5 to get more accurate points, where on the other one, trying to graph an x-intercept of 5/3 might be a little difficult. Alright, so it says convert 3x minus 5y into, 3x minus 5y in a slope-intercept form. I already did that there, so if you didn't do so, let's go ahead and write what I wrote before. If you didn't write it, I would just minus 3x on both sides to get negative 5y is equal to negative 3x plus 5. I would then divide each and every term by negative 5. This would give me y equals 3/5 x minus 1. So we just got that on the previous one. Here it is again if we missed it. Okay, so let's go ahead and graph the equation. If I go down to negative 1, I plot the point, then I'm going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3, over 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can do that again, up 3, 1, 2, 3, over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And remember, if you ever wanted to go backwards, you can always go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now what we have this, I can connect all my points, and I'll have an equation that looks like this. So explain in words when it is easier to graph a linear equation in standard form instead of slope-intercept form. Provide an example in standard form to justify your reasoning. So I would say it is easier when you can divide the c value by a and b and get an integer as an answer. So what do I mean by all this? So if you haven't done so already, go ahead and pause it and finish writing. So right now it should be all finished writing. So let's go ahead and look at what this means. It means if I have the equation ax plus by equals c, when you divide this c value by the coefficient of x or the coefficient of y, you should get a nice pretty number and not a fraction. An example of this would be 3x plus 5y is equal to 15. If you were to solve this, you would have the two equations, 3x equals 15, where you would divide both sides by 3 to get x equals 5. And the other way is when you would have 5y equals 15, you divide both sides by 5 to get y equals 3. That is how you get the two equations. Now, when it would be not more efficient, so in this pink color, let's say I have 3x plus 5y is equal to 7. And the two equations here would be 3x equals 7. So you divide both sides by 3 to get x equals 7 over 3. This for an x-intercept is very hard to graph. Also, if you have 5y equals 7, you divide both sides by 5 to get y equals 7 over 5. These are very difficult to see with an x and a y-intercept, whereas the blue example would be an easier thing to see. So what all these words are saying is I would choose it when the example looks more like this, when I can divide the c value by the a and the b value. It would not be easier when it looks like this. Alright guys, I hope this helps. Now that you have finished the two videos, I would like you guys to start the Google check. Once you guys are done with the Google check, you can start your homework. Please ask the sub if you can go to the Learning Commons and print your homework if you need to. And have a good day. I will see you on Monday. As a quick reminder, on Monday, this is what I am checking. On Monday, I am checking 3.1a, b, c, d, and e homework. I am checking a lot. I did not check these two on Tuesday. I did not check this, or excuse me, today. And these two are just due on Monday. Now, these are going to be the odds. You don't have to do all just the odds. The other thing is the Google check. So this should be done right now. This is what you are doing today, and you are also doing the Google check. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me.